So here we have illustrated a digital dental practice which is quite well equipped with different kinds of equipment. A little bit looks like here in the showroom. Even the dental unit has the same color. But the factor that naturally brings all of these devices together and ensures a smooth operation of the clinic is our Romexis software. So let's see piece by piece how we can build this kind of imaginary practice and how everything works together with our software platform. So in the presentation you will actually see the newest version, the 6, that is not yet in the market. So like said, in the end of the presentation we could take a look at what's changed. So when you see Romexis 6, don't worry, it's not yet in the market, so you can't have it yet. But so it will be a new design for Romexis. Hope you'll like it. So if we start from the basics, let's start with 2D imaging devices. So I think most of you have some kind of 2D X-ray devices. So for taking intraoral images, maybe for taking OPJs, maybe your dental chair has an intraoral camera for taking intraoral photos as well. So like you probably know, all of these images we can capture directly to Romexis. So it will be saved to Romexis database, and we can access all these images through Romexis interface. So here with Romexis 6, we're showing a little bit how we could manage 2D images in Romexis, browse the different types of 2D images of the patient, photographs, radiographs. We can have the tools for adjusting these images, for viewing them in order to make a diagnosis. And then we could calibrate, for example, cephalometric images, or use our measurement and annotation tools. And I don't know if you are using studies, so we can also build these kind of image collection studies using any type of 2D images, so that we can view those images as a collection. Also, we could build one with intraoral images as well. And let's then move on to 3D. So I don't know how many of you would have a 3D imaging unit, but if the dental practice would have one, we could also capture those images directly to the same database, and we could again use the same Romexis platform for working on those images. So here is just some basic viewing and analysis of CBCT images. And we have some tools for analyzing, for example, airway, or we could segment also other anatomies out of the data. Or view the soft tissue of the patient. And then maybe you know that optionally in our CBCT devices, we could also capture 3D facial photos of the patient. So this one would make it possible for us to have a so-called virtual patient with all of the patient's anatomy. So we could nicely educate the patient and also have more information ourselves. And then let's still mention just ordinary cameras, so 2D cameras for taking photos. And we could take a look at how we could use, for example, 2D facial photos for quick smile design. So in Romexis we have also this smile design module that we can use for better communicating with the patient, showing them different options of how their smile could look like. The patient will have a better understanding of what options are available and they can express their opinion. So then we could show them the before and after comparison, maybe make some changes when needed. And finally, about data capturing devices, intraoral scanners are getting more popular at dental practices. So we have also our own Emerald S intraoral scanner. So also this digital dental models we could directly capture to Romexis database and we could work on them. So here in this video we actually see one of the new functions in Romexis called Model Analyzer. So this module here was developed for easy scan and send workflow. So we could scan the data directly here or import. And we have nice visualization tools for the models. We could make measurements and analysis with the models. And we could also prepare the models for 3D printing, so we could send them to a 3D printer like this. Then, did you know that we have also a mobile imaging application called Romexis? So I will just quickly show what we can do with that application. So this one, Romexis works on Android and iPad tablets, and through Wi-Fi we can connect that to Romexis server, and we can actually retrieve all types of images on the tablet surface. So we could show all types of images, including CBCT, for the patient using the tablet interface. So here we have a little bit of highlights what to do with that. We could utilize the tablet's camera for capturing patient photos that could be added to Romexis database as well as ID photos, or we could even use that for smile design. Then, okay, it passed quickly, but we can initiate the capturing of 2D X-ray images with the tablet interface. And then we would directly have the 2D X-ray image on the tablet, and we could immediately show that for the patient. We could even use the tablet's microphone for recording voice annotations related to the image. So we could play back those recordings later. And finally, let's complement our imaginary digital dentistry practice with, it's almost like what I have here behind me. So a milling machine for producing restorations, and a 3D printer with which we could print out surgical guides, surgical splints, and dental models. So from Romexis, we can send data to these devices or to other devices. So from Romexis, we can get everything out in the standard STL format. So if we have a printer or milling machine ourselves, we could produce them in-house, or then another option is always to send them out of Romexis, for example, using our cloud transfer, or just sending them in some other way in STL format from Romexis to be manufactured elsewhere. And building all this imaginary practice doesn't mean, maybe you know, it doesn't mean that we need to have all of these devices or all of them need to come from Planmeca. So we actually allow, or we have wanted to make it possible to include also other manufacturers' devices in this system. So for example, for 2D X-ray imaging devices, we can use the Twain standard and directly capture the 2D X-ray images to Romexis. Then when it comes to cone beams, we have actually a new service called Dental Packs, through which we could, with DICOM commands, store the 3D images also to Romexis database, or then we can always import them in DICOM format as well. And for intraoral scanners, if we have the data in STL format, we can always import that to Romexis and work on that in Romexis. So now that we have built this kind of clinic, whichever amount of devices we have there, so let's see what we can do with this flexible system. So let's take a look at a couple of digital workflows that we can do with this setup. So firstly, if we take a look at implantology, we would like to have a CBCT image and then intraoral scan, so that we can also, besides bone, we can also see soft tissue outline, and especially if we would be interested in making a surgical guide, we would need to have a dental scan as well. And those surgical guides we could send to a 3D printer, and then when it comes to the restorations, we could make them with our milling machine, for example. So let's see how the implant workflow looks like in Romexis. So we would open the CBCT image, and what we would like to do first is to combine the STL scan, the dental scan, together with the CBCT. And for that, we specify 3 common points in both data sets. That works as initial matching of the data sets, and then the software still optimizes the matching. So now we have those 2 combined, and then optionally we could have made like a target crown design in our CAD/CAM module or anywhere where we can have an STL format of the crown. So we could also add that to plan, so that we understand a little bit the prosthetics that we will finally make. And this is our implant library currently with implant models from more than 90 different manufacturers. So we can add our realistic implant to the plan. And now that we have all this information, bone, soft tissue outline, initial crown design, we can fine tune and position the implant in the right position. And also included with the implant, we have selected a metallic sleeve. So the sleeve that will be put in the surgical guide. So after we have planned the positioning, we can continue to surgical guide module. Okay, still fixing a little bit the orientation of the sleeve. So then surgical guide module was just one button there in the user interface. So this is where we can define where to design our surgical guide. And a sleeve holder will be generated around the sleeve, so that we can insert our sleeve there. Then just modifying it a little bit. So we're designing the actual STL of the surgical guide here. We could add some extra support there when needed, and then also we could emboss some text if we would be producing several guides at the same time. So this guide design module we released, was it like 2.5 years ago? It has become quite popular. So currently we support designing guides on neighboring teeth. So if the patient still has some teeth left, of course we can plan multiple implants as well. And then we have also mucosa supported guides, or that protocol is also supported. So even if the patient doesn't have any teeth, we can still design a surgical guide and maybe plan some fixation pins as well as implants there, so that we can keep the guide in place. And what is also included is like a tooth extraction. So if we plan to extract a tooth and replace it immediately in the same operation with an implant, we can design the guide so that we can do everything during the same operation. And here, I don't know if I should, or maybe, yeah. Yes? Yeah, okay. Okay, so here we have 2 examples of a guide. The one is fitted here on top of a dental model. It has this metallic sleeve through which the drilling is done. And then this one here has come out of a printer, so it still has the supporting structures. So please take a look. So all of those, they are printed with our Creo C5 3D printer. Okay, and in the meanwhile, let's continue to this other workflow related to implantology. So if we would be designing and producing the actual restoration, the crown, that would be replacing the missing visible tooth. Here I had to borrow a video from YouTube because my CAD/CAM colleague was too busy to make a video for this occasion. So a little bit of advertising for Emerald S. And actually here we will see real-time scanning. So this who made this video, Wally Rene from the US, he's really experienced user of Emerald S. So he likes to highlight there that this video is actually real time. He's capturing the scan of the upper arch about in 1 minute. So he's still filling in some missing data, and here he's taking some 2D snapshots also. So if we hover Emerald on top of the teeth for a while, we can take a 2D snapshot of the teeth. So he just wants to have some more information about those prepared teeth to have better understanding of the margin lines when he's doing the design. So this is now the CAD/CAM software of Romexis, so the CAD/CAM module. And to start with restoration design, he's marking the margin lines of the prepared teeth. And this is where he's designing the restorations. So still modifying the teeth a little bit, fixing the contacts. Maybe making them a little bit more natural looking. And then still checking some contacts to opposing teeth and to neighboring teeth as well. So here then the final restorations for the patient. So that kind of chairside CAD/CAM workflow. And what about orthodontics then? So with Romexis, it's also possible. Well, for orthodontics, we have several solutions. We have our Ceph module for Ceph tracing, for cephalometric analysis. Then we had that model analyzer that you saw for initial analysis of the models. Then if we would be interested in actually making virtual setup of the teeth, so designing in which positions the teeth would be moving, and for producing in-house clear aligners like this, I can also give that to you. So that's a dental model on top of which the clear aligner is produced by pressing a membrane on that. So by capturing the dental scan, we can design those aligners or the model series that would work as basis for clear aligners in Romexis, and we could print those models, for example, with our Creo C5 and produce the aligners. Or then another option would be, of course, to send them to some manufacturer to produce them. So this is from Romexis 3D Ortho Studio, where we're planning the virtual setup. And this is optional. We could only work with dental scans, but if we would like to utilize CBCT data of the patient, we could segment the bone surface and the actual roots of the patient's teeth, and we could use all that information in the virtual setup. So that would allow us to also monitor, when planning the treatment, to also monitor if there would be the risk that the patient's roots are going through the bone surface during the treatment. So here basically we would plan where to move the teeth, and then in the software we could determine in how many steps the teeth would be moving to that final position, and based on that we could generate those the series of models on top of which we would make the clear aligners. And then if we move on to something still more advanced, our latest addition to Romexis 3D functionality, we could even plan orthognathic surgeries. So if orthodontic treatment is not enough, we could do orthognathic surgery by cutting both or one of the patient's jaws and moving that to a new position. So in Romexis software, we can also design those surgical splints that would be used for verifying the positioning of the patient jaws during the surgery. So naturally, also that we could produce with our 3D printer, for example. So this is how the orthognathic surgery planning looks like in Romexis. So we would have the skull and the dental scans attached. And first we would define the correct head orientation, adjust that maybe a little bit, then we would apply the osteotomies on the data, so either maxilla or mandible or both. So basically plan where to cut the bone, and then we could cut them separately, so now we would have those bone fragments separate. Here we bring in the target occlusion, so we have defined the occlusion that we would like to achieve for this patient. And when we bring this in, the jaws are automatically moved to that position, and now we can just fine-tune the positioning still, keeping the teeth in that target occlusion that we want to achieve. And we could also visualize the changes in soft tissue with the color map. And then finally, like said, we could produce the surgical splint with which we could verify the positioning. So also this surgical splint we can get out in STL format. So if we would have a 3D printer ourselves, we could 3D print it or send that elsewhere to be manufactured. Okay, naturally with Romexis you can do a lot of other things as well, but there were a couple of highlights about the digital workflows. And what I forgot to say in the beginning, naturally if you have any questions or comments, you can present them now or after the presentation. So if anything comes to your mind, don't hesitate to interrupt me. And what else we have still, like said, we could take a look at how Romexis 6 will look like. So like said, we will release it later this year. It won't be too different from the previous. Now the current version in market is like 5.3 point something. We have released a couple minor versions, so 5.3 basically. So for the functionality part, it hasn't changed that much. We don't want to change Romexis too much because we don't want our existing users to feel confused. So the major change that has happened is just a new design. So all the icons have been redesigned. Our designer Antti, whom you saw on one of the slides in the beginning, made some research with our customers, with us, with our dealers, in order to find out what could be better in Romexis, what are the main points that are not considered that usable, and what the users would like. So based on this, he made a little bit of redesign on Romexis. There's just a list of changes, but let's go through them here one by one. So then, besides the new design that you already saw in the videos also, one major change is that now all the images are stored in the same sort of container or viewer. So when we have this patient list in Romexis, just with one click, we can have a quick overview of all different types of data that the patient has. So in the same view, we can check what types of 2D, 3D CAD/CAM data they have. Yeah?
You know, it looks really beautiful, but the problem is we still have to go between two softwares, one for patient management and one there. Is there anything where we can do a charting and treatment plan everything on one? At the moment, I mean, I don't know what, so I use Exact and I use Romexis, right?
Yeah.
I can put all this data there and everything. I need to run that and I need to run Exact for my charting and my treatment planning.
Yeah, but you do have the integration of your Exit and Romexis, like you can search for because Romexis doesn't have, and it's maybe unlikely that we will have at any point like practice management inside Romexis, because I think that there are so many different patient management software in the world because of all the localization, you know, like all the taxation, billing, everything is so different from one country to the other, and there are so many different software in the market. So I think our solution will be to integrate them with each other also.
So we'll be still running two databases. We're still two databases, right? We still have to jump from one to another and another one.
Yeah.
You're a beautiful woman. You don't want to make her sexy. That's what it looks like at the moment.
Well, I can put that, but like I said, that's the problem. It's the problem that it would be so hard to localize the same software for all different markets. So yeah, unfortunately, I think Romexis will be imaging software, but anyway, it can integrate all the images at least in the same software.
Just about the mobile app, what's the system requirements? I mean, what's the system requirement?
The mobile imaging application that runs on iPad and Android tablet, and well, I don't know. I guess if it's not like very old tablet, I think it could. The application you can get from App Store if it's iPad, and then from Google Play Store if it's Android tablet, and I guess if it's available there, I think you can just download. Okay. So if it.
So we have some old tablets that I'm not sure the requirement like where's the
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we have any like official ones. Of course, we develop new versions of the mobile imaging application also. So maybe not like the very old ones are supported, but yeah. But it has to be a tablet actually, so it doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't run on a phone. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't run on the phone?
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Oh,
yeah.
Only on tablets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So iPad or Android tablet.
Okay.
Yeah, so an overview of all the patient's images. Then also here, when we have opened the patient file, we can see also here how we can filter the different types of images if we want to look for 2D images only, or 3D or CAD/CAM, different dates, and so on. So everything in the same view. Then we have also wanted to make it faster to access image capturing. So actually already in the patient list, we could right-click on any patient file and we could have all the image capturing options. But also when we have this patient file opened, we have an upper toolbar with all image capturing sources. So we could, with less clicks and faster, we could go on and capture more data for the patient. Yeah, then we have uniformed a little bit this upper toolbar because in the current version, depending on from one module to the other, those buttons might be in a little bit different order. But now we have wanted to put import always to the left and export to the right so that we can more easily find them. And if we would be working with the studies with 2D image collections, we have made some improvements to those also. We can now compare two studies with each other. We can have the studies also like as image files, just like the others. Maybe you saw in the earlier videos how you can see also the studies just like any other 2D image. So you could open them with just one click from there. Then this sub-module navigation is actually something that many customers have wanted to be changed. So now we have this sub-module navigation here above, so we can more easily navigate from one 3D sub-module to the other. And here we have this two-step maximization for 3D volumes. So when we maximize one of the views, we can still have the other views as reference so that we better understand where we are in the data. And finally, for usability, depends maybe on how experienced the Romexis user you would be. But for example, for new users, or if you are learning some new workflows, implant workflow, for example, in Romexis 6, we will have some integrated wizards that will guide the user. So what we see here, we will have some like short instruction videos embedded in the wizard, and then these buttons here work just like the buttons here in the toolbar. So they will actually activate for you that function so that you can better learn how, for example, implantology workflow works. So there are some drafts also for other types of workflows, smile design and surgery and so on. And then finally, I just highlighted some new functionality that we will have in Romexis 6. So I don't know if this will be in 6 or 6.1, but a machine learning algorithm that automatically traces us nerves. Or then we could have one for segmenting the mandible and maxilla separately, or then for segmenting these teeth. So this is what I was talking about related to orthodontic treatments, that we could segment the patient's roots so that we could better understand how the roots are also moving during the treatment.